Hi, welcome to Dr. Cammy Goes Keto, where I am Cammy, Dr. Cammy, and I'm here transitioning from a higher carb standard American diet to a low carb, more of a ketogenic carnivore diet. And I am here today to talk about carbohydrates and about some myths that people may think are true about carbohydrates and being in your body. And I've been in conversations with people before where they've been talking about how your body needs carbohydrates. And that's really not true. That's myth number one. You need to eat carbohydrates to fuel your brain. I guess that's the right way that you have to say it. You have to eat them, or they need to come from the diet, because your body does need glucose to live, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get it from your diet. Your body knows how to make glucose in the liver, and sometimes it can make quite a bit in the kidneys too, and that's called gluconeogenesis. And so your body is able to do that. And so the only essential things that you really need to eat are protein and fat. And fat gives you all of your essential meat gives you all of the essential amino acids that you need in order to function. And it provides all the substrates that you need to make glucose in the liver. So it says here, myth number one, you need to eat carbohydrates to fuel your brain. The actual truth says, while the brain does need some glucose, the body can make it from protein and fat, as I said, called gluconeogenesis. In low carb states, the brain runs very efficiently on ketones, often improving clarity and focus. And a lot of biochemists and people who study the different molecules and enzymes of our bodies will call ketone a cleaner type of fuel. It's kind of like electricity versus gas. It's like you're in your car. When your body runs on carbohydrates, I think of it in terms of like gas and how you have to fill that tank up quicker than you do although I guess, I don't know, it depends on how many miles you're getting, but it's a cleaner fuel to use the electricity. And that's kind of what the ketones are. And when you don't have a lot of carbohydrates coming in through your diet, your body will utilize the fat in your body and burn that fat, making ketones. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. It says here, myth number two says carbohydrates are the best source of quick energy. And that's not necessarily true. It says that's only true if your body is carbohydrate dependent, if you're carb adapted. Once you become fat adapted, the body has a steady supply of energy from fat stores and the ketones. And so you have no crashes and the dependency on carbohydrate refills that you need. So people who are athletes that go on long bike rides or are out for longer periods of time with exercise, if they're carb adapted, they will need to get carbohydrates in order to avoid hitting a wall. Excuse me. And so that's why they have those little packets of like sugar and stuff. I'm not sure what all is in there. But when they go on longer excursions of physical energy, they will need to reload and refill their tank, whereas people who are fat adapted will not have to do that. So I made a little graph, and I'm going to put it down at the bottom. And this is carb adapted versus fat adapted. And so at the top, it says here low carb intake. And as you lower your carbohydrate intake, your glycogen stores become depleted because you will burn the glycogen before you start burning the ketones. And then your body will look for before you start burning the fat to make ketones, I should say. And then your body will look for other fuels and will start to break down fat. And then after it does that, ketones start to form in the liver. And that's why when I eat my low carb diet and I check my ketones, they start to go up. And then enzymes and the mitochondria adjust, and the mitochondria in your muscles and your brain actually start to work more effectively, work more efficiently, and increase in number. And different enzymes are pulled into there too. And then the body will eventually become fat adapted and can still use carbs if it's needed. So I'm going to post this down at the bottom of the description of the YouTube that I'm making right now. And then maybe as time goes on, we can add a little bit more to it and add some more enzymes and stuff in there, some of the beta oxidation, stuff like that occurs. That's kind of cool stuff, I think. But anyway, so your body does not need carbohydrates to survive. It can actually do quite well with just protein and fat. Another myth is whole grains are always heart healthy. And that's not necessarily true. It says here, whole grains can still spike insulin and your blood sugar. Some people tolerate them fine, but for those who are insulin resistant and have metabolic syndrome or diabetes, heart-healthy whole grains can worsen the problem. And so that's where I sit with metabolic resistance with insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome going on. And so the more carbs that I eat, the more my body is struggling. And I really feel that it feels better and it does better when I'm on a low carb diet, especially when I'm on a carnivore diet, eating a lot of meat and a lot of fat. And, when you're on a carnivore diet, your body, I think it's like 70% of your calories really should be coming from fat. And then, you get, 35%, you get 25% from protein, and then you get that small amount from carbohydrates. When I try to eat no carbs at all, you're still getting carbohydrates in there because, small amount of berries have fruit. There's a small amount of carbohydrates in a lot of the foods that you eat, even when you're on a carnivore diet. So you do have to kind of be aware of that. Another myth, athletes can't perform without carbohydrates. That's a myth. We've kind of touched on it already. And it says here, many endurance athletes perform exceptionally on low carb or ketogenic diets. Fat adaptation provides sustained energy without hitting a wall. Sprint and explosive athletes may use targeted carbs, but even they don't require a constant high carb intake. Another myth, fiber is only found in carbs and you need it to be healthy. That is a myth. It says fiber is mostly in plants, but it's not essential. Cultures like the Inuit or traditional Maasai had little or no dietary fiber and they thrived. They did very well. And the Aborigines in Australia, they don't have a lot of fiber there. Gut health can also be supported with adequate protein and fat. So you do not need fiber in your diet to be healthy and to live. Another myth, low carb diets damage your kidneys. In healthy people, higher protein and fat intake does not harm kidney function. The myth arose from misinterpreting advice from those with existing advanced kidney disease. So if you have advanced kidney disease, a ketogenic or carnivore diet may not be the right and good thing for you because the kidneys do have to work a little bit more in those types of diet. But when you look at the overall health benefits of really watching your carbohydrates, most people, even with some kidney issues, can do well. And the last myth I'll talk about talks about carbs are the body's preferred fuel. It says here, carbs are the body's default fuel when available, but that doesn't mean they're preferred. Ketones are actually a cleaner, more efficient fuel source for the brain and body with less oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is not good for your body. It causes inflammation. It causes stress on the cells. It decreases cell life. It causes cancer. There's a lot of things that oxidative stress does. So this is compliments of ChatGPT. I am working with ChatGPT and going down some fun little rabbit holes with Chat. And he actually did say previously that glucose is necessary for the body to live. But then I had to clarify with him that glucose from the diet is not necessary to live. So it's created by our body. And also, just to let you know, a little aside, that 2/3 of the cholesterol in our body is synthesized by our body, and 1/3 of it comes in the diet. So people are always watching their cholesterol in their diet, and they don't necessarily have to do that. When you're metabolically healthier, the cholesterol will take care of itself. And some people who are in better metabolic health will have higher cholesterol and have higher triglycerides, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, as well as elevated LDL. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of some information to think about carbohydrates and watching your carbohydrates in your diet. I'm interested in trying to do that. I am on day 2 today of a 90-day sugar-free, flour-free commitment, and we'll see how that goes. So on the next video, I'm going to be talking about what it takes to be successful in a low carbohydrate lifestyle. And this is something that I'm struggling with personally because I have a history of binge eating disorder and I have not completely gotten my carbs out of my system, so to speak. So, but I do have some, I'm in the middle of it. I'm in the throes of it. I'm a little bit ahead of you if you haven't started yet. And I do think I have some information that will be valuable and fun for you to think about. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Take care. Subscribe. I'm looking for subscribers for my YouTube channel and also for comments. I'll always answer your comments. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.